Hello, and welcome to this video on TermHub that goes into more depth on the features of the terminology browser. This video assumes that you've created an account and logged in and are able to interact with the project. So I'm here on dashboard and I have this project that has a number of different terminologies in it we're going to take a look at. So we come here to the project details page and then we can click browser. So the first thing here is we've got information about the organization, the project at the top, and then these four terminology buttons are the terminologies that are actually here. If you mouse over them, they give you the version. So ICD 2024, Loink 276, 2024 ARCS norm, and the latest 2023-0901 SNOMED US edition. These are all selected by default. So you can click on these to unselect them. And then, so, we've got sort of nothing here. You can choose one or more than one. If you double click on one, it selects that and deselects all the other one, which is just a common thing that might be of interest to do. If you do have more than one terminology search and you search for something like, or selected and look for something like aspirin, you'll see that there's a terminology column in the search results. So it kind of tells you which thing that you're in. And when you look at these two results, the report of the data is different depending on the one that we're looking at. For our purposes for this part of the demo, we're going to actually look at SNOMED. So let's go here, select SNOMED CTUS, and we'll search for diabetes. There's a number of things about the search control we wanted to show. First, you'll see this active flag is set to on by default. This essentially says only find active concepts as search results. If I turn this off and then search, you'll see that there are inactive search results also included. Each terminology handles inactive content sort of its own way, but in SNOMED, all the old codes are still in here, and these actually will have relationships sort of linking them to current concepts. This active flag being off will also show inactive content in what is otherwise active codes. So this is another sort of special feature of SNOMED, but there are inactive descriptions that continue to exist in this code. They're just marked as inactive. So this isn't, gives you the ability to actually see that content if you're interested in it. But for most users, only searching for active content is what's important and relevant. Next, we've got this leaf node thing. So you'll notice there's 1,173 results here. If I turn this on and search it, we go down to 565. So this is another kind of filter that what it does is restrict to things that are only leaf nodes in the hierarchy. So essentially only concepts that don't have any children, only the most specific things. There are certain kinds of use cases like searching for codable concepts in ICD-10-CM where only the leaf node codes are really allowable to be coded to. So this can become a helpful search feature in situations like that. But it's off by default because this is not mostly what people need to do when interacting with terminologies. And then third, this highlight feature will essentially show you the reason why this concept was selected in the search results. So if I change the search here to search for bronze diabetes instead, you'll see that both bronze and diabetes are selected. So essentially, we're highlighting content that was provided as the reason why a search result was produced in the list. Okay, so the next thing you'll see is this enter expression or semantic type field. Let's go back to having this just be diabetes. So there's two ways to search this field. One is to use SNOMED ECL expressions, which I'm going to just assume that you're aware of what that is, and we'll give an example of it. The other option is that you can search by a semantic type. So here we can see this thing is listed as a finding. For SNOMED, this is because the parenthetical expression at the end of the fully specified name is the finding. So we could restrict here to finding and then only find search results that have a finding semantic type. Similarly, we could put procedure in here, and then this would find only procedure concepts that have the word diabetes. Or if we went here and said kidney, this would be kidney procedures, and then we could change this to body structure, and this would find only body structure anatomy concepts in SNOMED matching kidney. So the other option here is to use an expression. So here is an ECL expression in SNOMED that is descendants of or self of this concept. So if we scroll down and look at this hierarchy really quickly, you'll see it's this concept here, congenital anomaly of trunk. So what this search does is essentially say, I'm only interested in finding things that have the word kidney that are descendants of congenital anomaly of trunk. I'll note here the search feature itself is not actually required, so we could perform a blank search with this expression, and we find all of the concepts that are descendants or self of this concept in SNOMED. So this is a way also of just resolving an expression. You could similarly say disorder here, and this would just be all of the 87,484 disorder concepts here in this version of SNOMED. A couple other things to show here. Let's put this back to body structure and kidney. In the search results here below, you'll see there's a page size control. So by default, 20 search results come back from the back end. If you want to see more at a given time, you can change this all the way up to 1,000, which is still a kind of reasonable amount of data to send back. And then when you do this, you have a larger set of things here that you can look through. So that's the idea of expanding the search size. Similarly, at the bottom of this table, you can see there's search paging here. So you can go to the future, different pages of results as you go through all of this, or go back to the first page. So just classic paging controls. You'll notice also there's an export link icon here. So what this does is essentially download all of the search results for whatever the current search that you're in is. So if I click this, it'll download this 136 search result items. If I open this file, this is actually a tab separated values file, but with an XLS extension. So it will actually open in Excel. And when that happens, you can see here, it's got the terminology, the code, the name, and the semantic type. This isn't structured or formatted. It's just as simple as it could be, but opens easily in Google Sheets or Excel or whatever, so you can kind of tune this. It gives you access to the data, all the search results here. So this goes to 137 because there's a header line. And then you can do whatever you want with this data offline, sort of. So you can compile the results of different kinds of searches. We'll close that. One thing I wanted to point out is this will actually work even for very large amounts of things. If we go back and do that search for all disorder concepts, you can actually download 87,000 things. We do ultimately put a limit on this of 100,000. So if you try to, let's see here, it's computing in the background, perform a search with more than 100,000 results, it'll actually tell you to look for less results, because there are not a lot of use cases to kind of get more than that. It's probably even more than anybody will really need. Okay, so that just finished downloading, you'll see there, and now we can have a look at it if we were interested. 5.8 megabytes. All right, now I want to have a look at this section on the right. So we're going to clear this and go back to diabetes. So here you can see we have what we call the concept report on the right. This header line shows you top level information. It's SNOMED version 2023-0901. This is the code and this is the preferred name. Semantic types section, property section, these are defined by SNOMED in this case. The codes, the long numbers here, are the actual values of these properties. And then these are the names of those things, which are rendered via a metadata lookup, so it makes the screen more readable. In this case, we do have a definition. So here you can see the definition in SNOMED, and this is the both British and US English preferred language for this definition, just a feature of tracking languages. So in situations where we want to use multiple languages, that's capable. Definitions can have their own properties as well. In this case, SNOMED defines case significance and module ID. So where did this come from, and what is the case sensitivity importance of this string? Really, those properties are in SNOMED more useful for descriptions. So here are the names of the concept. We've got this title that says atoms, terms, and descriptions, because different sources of data call these different things. We could call them synonyms, other sorts of things as well. But essentially, these are all the names of the thing. This table is sortable, so you can sort by the various fields here if you're interested. And then this mouse over provides additional context for this metadata, again, because these long numbers may not reflect on the top of your head exactly what they mean. And then this language settings. So this is the preferred fully specified name in British English and also in US English here for this SNOMED thing. For deep users of SNOMED, that will all make sense. But essentially, it provides some context of what this kind of thing is, what languages it's relevant for, and what all of the actual names are. And again, turning active off will show any inactive descriptions if you're interested in seeing those as well. Parents and children, so we just separated these out into their own sections to make them more easy to look at. These links, wherever you see them, you can click on it and it'll update this report to show this concept instead. So you can kind of walk the tree and navigate the things along the way. Parent concepts, child concepts, then we just show the relationships themselves. So here you can see there is a relationship in SNOMED pointing to essentially the parent concept. And then this is the defining relationship for this thing. Something like diabetes mellitus. Well, it's got multiple parents, but not a much richer concept definition. However, inverse relationships shows things pointing to this concept from the other side. So type 1 diabetes mellitus in this case is a child, so these ISA ones are probably actually less interesting. Associated finding here. So family history of diabetes mellitus points to this concept as the associated finding. So if you're interested in kind of doing the reverse lookup, and this is potentially a lot of things, so it's sortable and filterable also. Here, for example, we could say pregnancy, and it shows you this concept during pregnancy also points to this thing as well. So you can also search by code and some other features here. So if you want to do a little work to kind of tune this view and find more discovery of the things pointing to this concept, you can also do that. Next, we have hierarchy sections. So these are the tree positions, the context in the hierarchy. Let's go back here because there's a little bit more information. Sorry, the second one I think has got more tree positions. So here you can see this hierarchy. There are 9 total tree positions. And this table here shows you a kind of horizontal view. So you can walk down the path from left to right, right? So the root, clinical finding, disease, metabolic disorder of transport, and then diabetes insipidus. Double clicking on any of these green things will actually load this concept, but we don't by default support single clicking because you can select this item and then essentially see the vertical view of this hierarchy. And then from here, you can kind of expand the tree and continue looking deeper. This little leaf icon lets you know that there's no children. Otherwise, there's a little expansion node to, see the children or not. And like the relationship section above, you can click on any of these links and it'll take you to a view of that concept as well. So there's a lot of information here about the hierarchy, and we'll be continuing to develop and expand the usability of this feature as we go forward. And then finally, there's a section at the bottom that shows a kind of graphical view of the concept. This is based off of the SNOMED diagramming standard. And in this case is a look into the defining aspects of this concept. So it is a subclass of the thing represented by these 2 parents and a finding site relationship to this finding site. We reuse this diagramming standard to render the content for other terminologies just to have a kind of similar graphical view. We're still trying to figure out exactly how and where that makes sense. So we've labeled this feature experimental for the moment. But let's go have a look at an ARCSNorm concept just to kind of see how this is all a little bit different. So we'll come here and look for aspirin. All of the same sort of features work. So here you see the semantic types listed. If I take one of these, I can search by it for aspirin, and this shows me the 7 things in ARCSNorm that have a semantic type of aspirin. No properties or definitions in ARCSNorm. There's only a single name. It is an ingredient, and it is the preferred name in English for this concept. No parents or children, because it's not actually how ARCSNorm works, but it has an awful lot of relationships. So if we wanted to have a view, we could actually load all of them here and see all 762 relationships. You can see kind of across the scope of everything. This table is sortable again as well by these columns up here and searchable. You can see all of the trade name concepts and so on. And then finally, we'll collapse this down. Just C10 again. There's no hierarchies, so the sections that don't have any content for terminology are there, but they're sort of empty. And then this is kind of a view into this ARCSNorm thing. Very simple. It just has a has form relationship to in this case, the precise ingredient, so the salt form of aspirin. And it's not actually part of the definition of this thing, which is why we call this experimental, but it's a nice graphical view, and maybe one of these other ones is a little bit more interesting. So this is a oral product representation of these three things and also a pill, and then it has as basis of strength aspirin, caffeine, and propoxyphene, propoxyphene, and hydrochloride. Wasn't prepared to read chemical names today. So that's a basic view into the browser and the features that allow you to interact with the content. There's a related feature if you come back to the product detailed page, which is this bulk search. Oops, let's go back to that project, sorry, and go to bulk search. And here is the idea that essentially you can choose a terminology again and put in a bunch of information here, search in bulk. So I want to say kidney, brain, and skin. And then we can do a similar sort of thing like we did on the other side. So I can say disorder here. And then I can essentially find results for all of the things that I'm searching for. If I want more results, I can find more results. So here I've got top 3 matches. This confidence score is just a relative measure. It doesn't actually mean anything, but it just shows you this sort of relative strength. So a higher number is better. We'll eventually kind of work this into a 0 to 1 confidence interval thing. But for now, it still gives you the top matches for each thing. And then I could also look up something like this, procedure here. This would give me procedures, so transplant, echocardiography of kidney, excision of brain, and so on, or body structure, just to round out the examples we were using on the browser side. You can really put as many things in here as you want and perform this lookup for up to 10 matches for each thing. So this is kind of a good way to just play around and see what happens. And then you can download these results also and interact with the data that way. So, you know, this is just a sort of useful tool to be able to take a bag of, let's say, local terms and map them or try to align them with SNOMED, where you can generate multiple matches for each case and constrain the kind of codes that they are based off of what you're looking for in SNOMED. And then, you know, manually edit that result to kind of come up with a mapping to SNOMED code. So use cases where you want to do bulk lookups of things. And we'll be doing a lot more of this going forward, this idea that there's a box where you can paste in some data, and then perform a sort of task-oriented lookup or correction or NLP or, you know, conversion, those sorts of tasks. And so we'll be kind of creating little individual demos for those features along the way. Thank you very much. This was just a quick view into a little bit deeper dive of how to use the terminology browser and the features that are currently available. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy the other videos and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks. Bye.